Welcome everyone to Hearts of Iron 4, can you believe it? Here it is. But before we move on, let's get some disclaimers out of the way. I'm playing on a pre-release build provided to me free of charge by Paradox, though I had already pre-ordered the game, so technically I have paid for it regardless. Anyway, this means that the build I'm playing on may be subject to change, and thus any bugs or glitches encountered during the playthrough may be solved upon release, just to make that absolutely clear before we move on. And here we go, moving on, and let me first just comment on what's going on in the background, the invasion of Normandy, or something similar at least, and it's looking beautiful. I love the artwork. Gorgeous artwork. Just want to point it out. So let's head into single player. I have played a bit of Japan previously, like just a couple of years, just to get a feel for the game, for the mechanics behind it, and for the country of choice, because we're going to play as Japan in this playthrough, and for anyone who has watched my previous playthrough of Hearts of Iron 3 as Japan, consider this the official sequel to that playthrough. Kind of Japan 2, the Redux or something like that. So let's go into new game, and we have two scenarios to pick from. The standard 1st of January 1936, the Gathering Storm, if you want to customize the army, if you want to do a sort of special build, or you just kind of want to be a part of the build-up that is happening alongside. You can start a few years before World War I starts, just to work yourself up, build yourself up. And this is the one we're going to pick because there's quite a few things happening to Japan and that Japan can do before 1939 anyway. You also have, if you want to skip that part, skip the build-up part and just head straight into the war itself, you have the 14th of August 1939 bookmark or scenario called Blitzkrieg. But as I said, 1st of January it is, and we're going to select it. And here we're presented with the interesting countries, the ones that are most fleshed out with most meat on the bones. France, United States, United Kingdom, German Reich, Italy, Japan, and Soviet Union. You can of course play as all the other countries as well, but they are not as fleshed out and may be really boring or straight up impossible if you're going to play as Poland. And we're going to play as Japan, who is led by Hirohito, Emperor Hirohito himself. They are fascist, dictatorship, totalitarian regime, and no elections of course, and the ruling party is something I cannot pronounce. They have a national spirit, which is a sort of modifier at start, which is state Shintoism, which decreases factory bomb vulnerability, which means that if, for example, the United States get the idea of bombing our factories, we will take less damage from it. And our division recovery rate is extraordinary. And this is what we start with initially. Some of these may be negative. For example, in the Soviet Union, you start with national unity minus 20%. So they can be negative, they can be positive, they can be replaced, and of course more things can be added. But let's pick Japan, and here we are. Here you can also pick whichever one you want, but we're going to play as Japan on regular difficulty, not on Iron Man mode, because when you do playthroughs and stuff like that, you kind of want the saves in case of crashes or whatever. So I'm going to not do Iron Man mode. And here you have historical AI focuses. If you pick this one, the AI will most likely go down the historic route when it comes to the national focuses and the decision they make when they're presented with various decisions or events. If you want a historical route, for example, if you play the game a couple of times and you kind of want something different, you can, click this off and play a bit differently. We also have some more. This is just the general options. I thought it was options for customizing the scenario. But anyway, let's get started here. Some of you have probably devoured everything that Paradox has released on the game, and every single bit of information of it. But in case you are not completely aware, and just to kind of set the scene, let me go through the UI and what's in the game. So up here we have national unity, which is, is present in Hearts of Iron 3 as well. And that determines how quickly your country will surrender, how much of your country's cities and victory points that must be taken before your country surrenders. And the same goes for the AI. For example, here in China, they have 70% national unity, which means we basically have to take, say, 70% of their cities or important cities before they will go to the peace table and unconditionally surrender. Here we have political power, which is a new thing for Hearts of Iron 4, which are used for example, if you want to add some political advisors, they cost 150 to 250 each. I haven't seen anyone more expensive than that. And you get, by default, 2 per day. and that can be changed and upgraded depending on a few factors. And if you pick a national focus, while you are using a national focus, that will cost 1 political power each day. So if you have one national focus going the whole time, basically you get 1 political power per day, and you can use it on various things. And that leads quite nicely straight into national focuses. And here we have different paths to go on. Some are mutually exclusive, some are not. Like this one, for example. You cannot go for Chinese puppet and war with China at the same time. The same thing here with the Soviet border thing. And I thought at first that army primacy and navy primacy were mutually exclusive. However, they are not. You can get both, and that is no problem at all. But I think at the start here, at least, considering there's going to be a little bit before the war, we're going to go for a spiritual mobilization, since it almost doubles the amount of manpower that is available. As you can see here, this is the next one. Manpower, before it was just a bit more abstracted, now it says 970k available, so 970,000 men available, and that has not been used up. And we have 2.5% of our core population available for recruitment, which our core population is about 65 million, so 1.65 million plus the scraps that come from non-core population. And that is due to limited conscription, but spiritual mobilization increases the recruitable population by 2.5%, so I think that's a pretty good one to start with. And that also leads nicely down the line here for more things like extra research slot, which we start with 4, at least as Japan, 4 research slots. So that is pretty much a 20% increase. Seems extremely powerful. So I'm going to aim for that one immediately. And this one, called Warrior Traditions, increases national unity by basically 20% in total. The base national unity by 5% and then a 15% increase from the national spirit warrior traditions on top of that, which seems pretty strong, and that leads into the Divine Wind, basically allowing kamikaze strikes. But we're not going to go that far down the line yet. So let's move on here. We have 63 factories in total in Japan at the moment. These are divided up into military factories, naval dockyards, and civilian factories. Some are in use, some are not. And we'll head into what each of them does eventually. Here's the experience of the different wings, I suppose, or branches of the military: Army experience, Navy, and Air experience. These are used for, basically, Army experience are used for editing your divisions, creating the divisions. For example, here is, oh wait, where did you go? Here is the standard division that you start with, the standard infantry one, that starts with a lot of infantry and some engineer company and the recon company. If I wanted to add, for example, a battalion of artillery here, that would cost me 5 experience to add. If I wanted to add another, that would be 5 more experience. And also to edit things like removing infantry would cost experience as well. So in order to edit my divisions, to make my own divisions and customize them, I need army experience. And army experience is mostly gained from fighting, but you can also get them from exercising your armies and things along those lines. So that's what army experience is used for. Navy experience and air experience is used a bit differently, because you can do a variance of ships, for example, like this destroyer here. I could add more torpedoes on it, and that will cost 75 Navy experience to pull through. So these add a bit of customization, but it's quite expensive experience-wise. But that's what it's used for, and currently we start at 0, and here's convoys. We have 400 convoys in total, and we're currently using up 9. We will use more of them later on. And here's, of course, the time controls and things like that. And here we go into research, one of these fields here. And the research tree is quite different from Hearts of Iron 3. It's streamlined, and I gotta say I quite like it in that it's very readable. But let's see here. You have the year here and what type it is, kind of a label of it here in the background. So the 1918 support weapons we have not unlocked, so I think that's going to be a starting research. And as you go through here, you have infantry techs and different special forces. Like if I wanted to unlock mountaineers, I could research this one. And you also get a free division template in here that you start with and can build immediately. So that's pretty nice, and motorized infantry as well. Here we have support battalions. I'll go through what they do when we actually design a division later on. But you can unlock military police, maintenance companies, field hospital, logistic company, and so on to attach to your divisions to enhance it in small ways. And armor here, as you can see, labeled light, medium, and heavy. Medium is not even available until 1939 for Japan, because Japan when you think of Japan, you think of ships and airplanes primarily. The Zero and the Yamamoto or whatever. Yamato? I can't remember his name now suddenly. Anyway, you think of ships and you think of airplanes. You do not think of tanks. Japan wasn't a big tank guy because tanks were not very usable in the terrain in China and in the jungle and so on in Indochina. But still, we have some available for us. The Hago, which I recognize thanks to Men of War, and the Kenny, Chiha, Chinu, Chiri, and so on. And you can even go for some heavy tanks here. I think most of these were experimental. So I really will not focus on tanks at all. Some light tanks to attach to infantry could be pretty good to increase combat effectiveness, but beyond that, probably not going to go for much armor. Here we have the artillery tree, where we have anti-air, anti-tank, and standard artillery, and as well as rocket artillery later on in 1940. We could upgrade our current artillery, which we have this research here, to interwar artillery. It would take 148 days and increase our artillery capability a bit. So I think I will go for that one. Here we have land doctrine. There's 4 available, at least currently, and all of these are mutually exclusive with each other. Japan starts with the Grand Battle Plan Doctrine, and if you want to replace that, we could do so by researching one of these. I would forgo our investment here. So you kind of want to pick one doctrine and roll with it. If you want to replace it, that's going to take a lot of time primarily, and you would waste a lot of time if we're going to go here to Grand Assault and then suddenly, oh, never mind, I want to go for mobile warfare. That's going to cost a lot of days in investment for you. But here, Grand Battle Plan Doctrine sounds interesting enough. Good enough, I mean. We start with Trench Warfare and then Grand Battle Plan, which we could do, but I don't think we need that max planning bonus quite yet. Here is the naval things with the different models of ships that are available and we can unlock along the way. Japan starts with quite a few unlocked. Here we have the destroyer tree, the cruiser tree, which really should be divided up into light cruisers. These are the light cruisers and these are the heavy cruisers. The battle cruisers, battleships, and the super heavy battleships as well. Yamato, that was the name of it. And carriers, submarines, and transports, which are more like passive upgrades in a way. I'm honestly not very good with the Navy. I haven't really experienced too much with the Navy stuff in Hearts of Iron 4. So I will have to go on Hearts of Iron 3 knowledge, which means that I will stick to a doctrine of light cruisers and carriers, which is the one I'm most used to and comfortable with. So when 1940 is coming around, I will unlock the Agano class and the Shukaku class, but right now go with the Soria and the light Mogami, which seems like a pretty good combination. And won't really bother with the battleships or the destroyers, even though destroyers seem like they have pretty good use against submarines. And here we have Naval Doctrine. Once again, just like the Land Doctrine, these are mutually exclusive with each other. When you start with Base Strike, which is the strong focus on carriers. So that seems reasonable. I will focus a lot on carriers myself, so this tree seems decent enough. I won't really need carrier primacy, but we'll get into that further on, maybe with the unlocked extra research slot here. Air, Japan starts with some unlocked. Naval Bomber 1936 unlocked, but not the fighter one. So probably go for unlocking the Nakajima Ki-27 just to get the airplane factories up and running with a newer model. And air doctrine, once again, these are mutually exclusive, but we don't start with one unlocked already. So we could pick one for ourselves, which one will, whichever we feel would be best for us. I think I haven't really figured out which one fits best with carriers yet. I think maybe this one, operational integrity, but I'll look more into that. It's not urgent to pick one at the moment. And an engineer and industry, finally, to increase our research time if we want to go to electronic mechanical engineering, which only takes 99 days actually, so let's go for that one. And eventually atomic research for the atomic bomb and so on. And industry here for increasing our production efficiency cap, which we have on our factories, which we'll head on into soon enough. And some other upgrades as well regarding production of various sorts and building. Here's the diplomacy screen, which is, what you would expect really. Here is Mengoku, our puppet really. And you have, standard options. It's pretty standard fare. So no need to delve in too deep into diplomacy at the moment. The trade thing has been a bit streamlined. This gives quite nice information at the moment. We need 11 oil. It says just straight up. And if you click on oil, you get the countries which we can import oil from. So we have the United States here, then we could set the amount that we need and send a request there, and we kind of set up a trade with the United States for oil. And we can do the same for these other things like aluminum, rubber, tungsten, steel and chromium. So that is fairly easy to handle there in trade. Straightforward, no problem at all. And here we come to the more interesting stuff, I suppose. Constructions, where we can use our not our naval things, but our civilian factories to build more factories and infrastructure and various things like it. And we have initially a consumer goods, which is automated, because with our current economic policy, the people expect 20% of our total number of factories to produce consumer goods, which means that 10 of them will be allocated immediately and automatically to consumer goods. And we can't really do anything about that, that's just how it is. Because we currently have 48 factories and that's basically 10%, or 20% is 10 of them. And traded goods is, we use our civilian factories to trade with other countries when we import stuff. So that is also taken automatically. And the rest can be used for example, constructing more civilian factories. And each region here has a cap on how many factories it can have. This one only have 3 at the moment, so let's add 2 here maybe, and I guess 1 here and 1 here. That seems decent enough. And the factories will be allocated automatically, those that are available, or those that are left over after consumer goods and trade goods have had their share, into constructing these factories, or infrastructure, or anti-air things, or naval dockyards, and so on and so on. And I could probably queue up some military factories here and here. So they have some things to build. And you can, of course, change the priority of things as well along the way. So that's basically what civilian factories are made for. You can convert civilian factories to military factories and vice versa, of course. And here's the production line, where things, are produced, basically. Here you allocate your naval dockyards and your military factories to produce various things, such as infantry equipment, which we currently have a total need of 405. That will increase quite rapidly, I might add, over time. Support equipment, motorized equipment, or basically motorized vehicles and stuff, interwarfighter, carrier naval bombers, and so on. And when, we are, as I mentioned before, we're developing the Nakajima KI-27, so when that is done, we can switch the production line out for that one, no problem at all. But considering we have a need of a lot of infantry equipment, I think I will allocate a fair number of the factories to it, maybe even this much. Because when you allocate more factories, it takes a while for them to adjust and to optimize basically the production flow, so you get a production efficiency that needs to be improved over time. which will be. We need some more support equipment, so I'll add some more factories onto that. And beyond that, I think we will add some more lines here. Maybe artillery, towed artillery will be needed. As you can see, it starts with a production efficiency of 10%, which will increase quite rapidly, in fact, per week, up to 50%, which is our current production efficiency cap. And that will be increased through technology. But 1 artillery per week seems reasonable. And considering we will add light tanks eventually, so maybe we should get one of those lines up immediately, and the rest of them will be added into one here and so on. Okay, maybe one more here in artillery. That seems decent enough. And here we have where our naval dockyards, we're currently using 10 out of 15, are being allocated to the different types of ships that are available. And here we have battleships, carriers, and so on. And since we're not going to use battleships, I will cancel out everything that is not light cruisers or carriers. So we actually have even 2 sets of submarines here being produced. Actually 3 different lines of submarines being used. So that's unnecessary. So let's add more of them here, maybe even this many to get the carriers up faster, and build ships and add, let's see here, where was it? Light Mogami class, there we go. And then set the rest of them. There we go, we have 3 more. There we have it. All the naval dockyards and military factories are being used now. And in 2.39 years, the current one, this line will have gotten the first Light Mogami class, and hopefully then be faster with the rest. And the reason it's so long right at the moment is that we have a lack of resources, which we will fix eventually. No problem there. And we will probably need to get started on training for various units. Here is the recruitment and deployment, and these are the pre-made or the starting divisions that you have, that you will have regardless. And when you build infantry equipment or produce infantry equipment, the remaining will go here into reinforcements primarily. It will be in order of primacy, I suppose. Going into reinforcements, then upgrades, following by more recruitments, I suppose. And you can override it to some extent, like high reinforcement priority will put it over these, because these are on medium reinforcement priority. But if you had these 2 on high priority, high upgrades would get it first, then the Hohei Shidan, then reinforcement, and finally Rikusental. I think it's Rikusental. And we can, set a location where, when the units are done, we can set where they will deploy automatically. And we will deploy them here in, where is this, Hiroshima? In Chugoku? Shugoku. Yeah, exactly. So they will start there, and Rikusental will be in Kyushu, over here in Nagasaki. Kyushu, so when they're done, they will be automatically deployed over here, along with these 2 divisions here. And that's pretty much all these things here. We have logistics here, where we can see how much we are lacking in the various resources, that we are using 100% of our military factories and naval dockyards to producing things, as well as our need here, like infantry equipment. We have a lot missing, 2.56 thousand units of infantry equipment that we need basically for new deployments and division reinforcements and so on.